Hello everyone and welcome to the FinTech Times. I'm Tyler and today I'm here at PAY360 and I'm joined now by Tom. Tom, how are you?
Great to meet you. All good, thank you.
Good.
It's great to be at an actual real person event.
A natural real person event?
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see so many faces. I haven't seen so many faces in 2 years, but it's good to be here. So we mustn't leave our viewers waiting any longer, Tom. Why don't you tell us a bit about who you are and where you've come from?
Sure, okay, thanks. So I'm Tom, I run the product and marketing teams at Osper. Osper is a parent-managed debit card for young people. So we have a consumer product in the UK, which is loved by parents and by children. And today we're here particularly to talk about our B2B product. So we've launched a platform called Prosper, and Prosper allows anyone, anywhere, the ability to launch their own youth card scheme in weeks. It's an incredible platform. We're working with banks, we're working with startups, we're working with brands all over the world, helping them launch youth card schemes, and through that helping children transition from cash to digital payments.
That's really interesting. We haven't had the advantage of talking to anybody from that kind of space before. So we're really happy to have you with us. So I think you're serving quite a niche demographic, and I think youth payments are something that's come along quite far.
Yeah.
In terms of the pandemic and maybe a little bit on a wider level, how have you seen customer demands from PayTech change?
That's a really good point. So cash is dying. We all know cash is dying. And amongst the youth market, it's no different. Particularly, of course, because children, their main source of funding comes from their parents. If your parents don't carry cash anymore, then it's very difficult to get your pocket money in cash from your parents. So the death of cash for parents has meant also for children, cash is on the way out. So youth card schemes have exploded in popularity over the past couple of years. In particular, over the pandemic, of course, we saw a very similar spending pattern to adults, where in-person spending dropped right off, cash machines fell off a cliff, but online spending grew massively. Amongst the youth demographic in particular, one really interesting thing we saw was spending on online gaming, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, which went from being a reasonable part of the spending mix, but not significant. Now, across all demographics, I think in 2021, it was about 40% of all spending across boys and girls, across all ages, about 40%. And when you start narrowing it down to boys aged 14 to 16, it's like 95% or something like that. So yeah, so online gaming spending has just exploded amongst the youth demo.
We did a monthly coverage of online gaming and how that translates into payments. And it's a really interesting and quite promising space at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, what is, with finances of children versus finances of adults are quite different figures. But in terms of like the spending volume of the average user, like what's the figures on that?
Sure, I mean it varies enormously depending on age, of course. And I think we all remember when we were kids, my first pocket money was 20p a week, which is showing you how old I am. But obviously, as children get older, pocket money goes up. Varies somewhere between some kids are getting £10 a week, some kids are getting £20 a week. Also, interestingly, it varies depending on location in the UK as well. We have this map, we've broken it down. Spoiler alert, don't be a kid in Wales. You have the lowest pocket money of the UK. Sorry, Wales. But of course, London in the southeast has a much higher level. So yeah, it's really interesting to see the variations across the UK and across the age ranges as well.
And it's really interesting when you speak about where that money is going into gaming. I think we've seen like PayTech within game tech come so far, and it's a really interesting thing to think about, really.
It really is, yeah, especially with the growth of micropayments in games as well, and the whole pay-to-play system where you have a free game and then the game is funded by extra little micropayments on top. That's a really interesting aspect, and again, something that you can only really do with a low-fee, low-cost debit platform like Osper.
Yes. Well, with children's payments, you wouldn't want them to run up massive fees.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's the beauty of using a dedicated payment card for a child, because it's a prepaid card. Your child can only spend what's on the card, which means there's no risk of overdrafts, no big running up debts. Sometimes it feels like you open the paper, and every time you open the paper, there's a story in there that says, yeah, my child ran up a £9,000 bill or a 12,000. I heard 22,000 was the highest one I've heard so far on FIFA. Someone managed to spend 22 grand on their parents' debit card.
Well, who hasn't? You know,
Yeah,
who hasn't,
exactly.
You know, at the end of the day. So we talked a little bit about your new product.
That's
Prosper,
right, yeah.
Right.
So we've launched a product called Prosper, and Prosper is basically Osper in a box. Prosper is this incredible platform that allows anyone to launch their own youth card scheme. We're working with banks who want to launch a youth card scheme but are held back by legacy technology and internal development resources. We're working with startups, so if you want to launch your own youth card scheme in Bolivia or Burundi, you don't want to build the platform, we have a platform ready to go. And we're working with brands who want to leverage their existing family audience and launch a youth card off the back of that.
I think it sounds like a really, really exciting time for you guys. I mean, outside of Prosper, are there any particular payment models that you were like, oh, that's really cool, or that's going to go far?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your thoughts?
Definitely. So for open banking, there's a huge benefit for us. Remember, we're a prepaid card, which means we've got to get money onto that card somehow. Now, at the moment, we tend to do that by taking money off a parent's debit card. Of course, that's a reasonably expensive way to do things. There's a finance charge. Also, we have to deal with payment failures, which happen on debit cards sometimes unnecessarily. And open banking for that will be a big game changer for us. If we can just automatically take money directly from a parent's account, it'll reduce our costs, and it'll make things more reliable and faster as well. So we're super excited to be integrating open banking into our platform this year.
Wow, well, yes, I think open banking is really going to be the feature of this year. Let's hope, fingers crossed. But you mentioned before that your new product is working with, well, can be integrated with existing banks. Now, in terms of PayTech, and especially in light of the pandemic, we've seen a major shift in the attitude towards traditional banks. I mean, how do you think this move towards digital is affecting the traditional players?
That's a really great question. I think traditional banks are in a difficult position. They have an incredible, powerful product, which has been running beautifully for 20, 30 years or so. They have huge development resources, entire buildings full of technology. But sometimes when your organization is that big, it becomes very difficult to be agile, to adapt, to introduce a new product. If your product roadmap is already planned out for the next 3 years, it's very difficult to change that and introduce a new product. And that's where organizations like Osper can come in. We can provide expertise, we can provide a solution which can be integrated into your platform, or it can be run as a completely standalone stack. And that's really, really powerful. Really powerful. It means that the existing bank doesn't have to rely on internal resources, doesn't have to try and squeeze it into the roadmap somewhere, doesn't have to integrate it with legacy technology. It's a complete standalone solution, and banks are loving it, absolutely loving it. We're talking to banks all across the world, in Latin America, Europe obviously, Middle East, North Africa. We just opened up our first sales office in Dubai.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
The Middle East is going to be a huge market for this. Yeah.
I bet. Well, it's really interesting to see how you've made it so it can be integrated and used, you know, really practically. Because I think sometimes when new products like these come out, they can be a bit off-putting if it's too complex or there's too much red tape. So I think banks are really going to love your product. And just remind me, it's gone live today?
So no, it went live towards the end of last year.
Okay.
Probably the big thing that we did towards the end of last year, we joined the MasterCard Start Path program, which genuinely, if anyone watching this, it's been one of the best business decisions we've ever made. The MasterCard Start Path program has been fantastic for us. It's introduced us to banks and financial services companies all over the world, and that's given us a huge boost. So we launched with the Start Path program second half of last year, and this year it's time to put our foot down and dominate the globe with it.
Well, that sounds like a very interesting proposition, Tom, and it sounds like you've only got a bright year ahead of you. So yes, it's been great to speak with you today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.